Hello, everyone, and welcome to D&D News. You're looking at something you shouldn't be looking at, really. Let's get that down out of there. How's it going? How is life in the fast lane? I am Greg Tito. I am sipping the last of the pumpkin spice coffee that's available. Yeah. I'm actually going to switch out this because I'm not going to do any of that for a while, and then you can just see me here. That's just me here in the flesh. How are you? I will be doing so much fun stuff. Hey, Deb and Rue, how are you? Good to see you in here. I can't wait to talk to you next week for Dragon Talk. That's going to be super fun. I'm going to be spoiling all of the things. That's right, Elwarius. You saw all the spoilers. No, it was just a folder of images, which you may see some of those coming up. There's not new images. They're just images that I might have shown possibly in the last D&D news. How's everyone going? I wasn't here last week. Obviously, it was that Thanksgiving week? That was just last week. Gosh, it feels like a long time. I've only been back to work for a day and a half now, and it already feels like jam-packed, and I'm tired, and I want to sleep many times more than I did already. We're all here now. How are you? So yeah, Dragon Talk has been super fun. We spoke to some very interesting people yesterday, including Rob Dabby O, talking about Betrayal Legacy, which is the game he was lead designer on. He has a long history with the Betrayal at House on the Hill brand. It's pretty interesting to hear his entire work history and how he got to have touched with that game when he was working at Hasbro. It became a Wizards of the Coast Avalon Hill game around 2004 when it was released here. And then Shelley Mazanoble, my co-host on Dragon Talk, has been working on all the Avalon Hill games, and she thought a Betrayal Legacy game would be off the chain, and it is. I played my first session of Betrayal Legacy today. It is a game that kind of melds board games and role-playing games. You don't know exactly what game you're going to be playing when you start. It's a tile discovery game. You're searching through different rooms of a haunted house. There's not really, in the traditional Betrayal at House on the Hill, there's not really a meta game or a overarching story. There's a story for each time you play. It's a random haunt. One of 50 can be spawned throughout play of the game. But in Betrayal Legacy, there's a little bit more of a continuity to it. There's 13 haunts, including the prologue, and then 13 haunts after that. And they all tell the story of several families who investigate the same house generation after generation and discover new and interesting things about it. So far, it seems really enticing. There's a lot of twists, a lot of turns. You're putting stickers down on game pieces. You're changing the course of the game from the get-go. You're naming your characters. You're writing on cards and making it feel very personalized for you and your group. So if you like board games, if you like that kind of meld of strategy and turn-based play, Betrayal's for you. If you like board games and also love RPG mechanics, things that have consistency and persistence through play sessions, Betrayal Legacy's got you covered there. So far, so good. It's out now, and a lot of people are talking about it. So that's where I wanted to start today. If you're interested in more, you can obviously go listen to our Dragon Talk interview that was recorded here on Twitch. It'll be coming out on our RSS feed this week. It'll be out on Thursday on Dragon Talk. But I wanted to talk about some of the folks, and here I will call this back up so that you can see this. Ba-ba. So yeah, Kotaku, our friends there, did an awesome write-up of what Betrayal Legacy is all about, which you can take a look. Can you read that, actually? Is that too small for you guys, that type? What's my password? Let's see. So yeah, Kotaku said that this was just really a thrilling board game. Our friend of the brand, Cecilia D'Anastasio from Kotaku, she's got a really great write-up about it. But the quote that I liked the most was that after my first 2 sessions, Betrayal Legacy feels like an unpredictable and unusual feat of storytelling. It's easy to teach players who have never played the original and exciting for old fans of the game. So there it is. There's a lot to it, and I want everyone who's interested. I mean, I'm not even that much of a fan of horror or the tropes of horror, but I just love this game because it's a game designer's game. It really does feel like it pushes the boundaries of what's possible in both a board game and a tabletop gaming experience. So check it out if you haven't already. Yeah. That was a good headline too. V2 Blast takes 13 thrilling hours to play, and that's basically what I was talking about. The 13 sessions that you can play it on. They all take about an hour. There's lots of things that happen at the beginning and ends of each one of those sessions that continue on through future sessions. And then once you're done with those 13 hours, you have a board. You have a game that is unique to you and your play group that you can play with infinitely a number of times. As he said, there's 50 haunts in this book, and you might not know what a haunt is. So what a haunt is through the course of exploring the house of betrayal, you don't know what the point is. You don't know how to win. You don't know really what's happening until at some random point in the game a haunt is triggered. You look up what specific haunt is triggered, and there's one of 50. It's random, essentially. That is what the narrative ends up being. There's usually a traitor. There's someone in the group that ends up being the bad guy. The rest of the group tries to work against them, doing what is written out in the haunts and what makes sense to you and your group. But at the end of those 13 sessions, you'll play 13 of them. That means there's still 37 haunts left that you haven't yet played yet, and then you can replay those, as much as you want using the components that you create in the course of the 13 story sessions that you're playing through. So all in all, it's pretty fantabulous. Like I said, I played my first session today with Pelham Green, with Bart Carroll, Shelley Mazanoble, and Nathan Stewart, and we had a blast, even though I died at the end of turn 2. Pelham Green character, I don't want to talk too much about, but he basically he found a gun in one of the items that you can discover, and he was able to take me out pretty quickly. So yeah, there is combat, there is movement. It's very similar to Dungeons & Dragons in that way. In fact, we adapted this format for Betrayal at Baldur's Gate last year, which kind of melded the D&D kind of aesthetic with exploring the city, placing tiles that you do in House on the Hill. So if you're interested in something that's more fantasy rather than horror, check out Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. That one is pretty amazing as well. But Betrayal Legacy is the new hotness, and everybody should check that out as well. So other stuff that's in the news. Let's talk about these books right here. So the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of D&D. I should switch that up to this. ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of D&D. These books are fantastic. We actually just found out that they're selling like hotcakes everywhere. Please get them while you can. I really dig them. They are children's books that talk about the wonder of Dungeons & Dragons with rhyming couplets written by Ivan Van Norman, illustrated by Caleb Cleveland. We had them on Dragon Talk a few weeks ago, and they are amazing people, creative, and really good at what they do. So I can't wait for more parents to pick this up. As a parent myself, reading books that aren't fun to read is a chore at night. I still do it, obviously, and if my kid wants to really read about something that doesn't interest me, that's okay. I like reading, but when it is something that I am interested in, like Dungeons & Dragons, and it's got amazingly fun rhyming couplets, it's just a win-win. I will pick this book up, or these books up, rather, any day of the week for that reason. But one thing I wanted to highlight was some comments from, I guess I didn't Now, I don't have a graphic for this, but our friends at Bleeding Cool wrote up a really good review of it. So Gavin Sheehan, who is an amazing writer, talked about how these books come off, and I think it's a good write up. He says that they know how to tell a story that can be fantastic and informative at the same time. And Gavin goes on to say that the illustrations are a good representation of what D&D really is, and that overall these are some really lovely books. They serve their purpose well, and they work on different levels for kids and adults. And I think that's very true based on my experience with my kids already. So if you're looking for kids who might actually be into it, go check it out. Yes, and I might... which one did I read last time? I thought I read the 1, 2, 3s. Did I read? Yeah, which one? You know what? You guys vote in the chat. Which one should I read? I'm going to read one of these right now. ABCs or 1, 2, 3s? 1, 2, 3s or ABCs? Bum, 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 bum. I did the ABCs. Okay, so who wants to read me to read the 1, 2, 3s? Yes? Is that a yes, Shadow Walker? Yes. All right. 1, 2, 3s it is. Hang on, I'm going to give myself some room. All right, there you go. I like that I'm wearing a Death Saves Beholder shirt that got a little bit pinkified in the wash. But here we go with the 1, 2, 3s of D&D. Written by Ivan Van Norman, illustrated by Caleb Cleveland. We begin with one dungeon master telling a story of daring deeds. The adventure of two heroes and their brave and noble steeds. A nice product placement there. They battle against 3 goblins, snarling and mean. Oh, V2 Blast. I did not. To find and save 4 travelers in a very exciting scene. The heroes visit 5 towers, a city on the boom. To hear the words of 6 scholars with a prophecy of doom. Gather the 7 sigils, or this land will turn to ash. But beware of 8 liches who guard them from the brash. With the help of 9 dragons, the heroes will save the day. But when the clock strikes 10, it's time to hit the hay. And then here's some a fun bestiary. I don't think I went through this the last time I read this. But these are the Alhoons, which is great. Alhoons prefer to dine on brains and cackle in their caves. The Almirage are tiny, but their little hearts are brave. An Axebeak is a trusty mount, but it's hard to ride. And if you like brass dragons, you like food crispy fried. And then there are bronze dragons who like the beach and the sea, but make sure you never bring a bugbear home for tea. A copper dragon can tell some funny tales, but the drow are grumpy and live underground with snails. Snails. Every haunted house has a ghost or 2, but if you want to party, then the goblins are for you. If it's wisdom you're seeking, then gold dragons are the best. But if you seek a hobgoblin, then fighting is your quest. A lich is evil, and its heart is filled with ire. Red dragons sit on piles of gold and toast you with their fire. Silver dragon's breath can turn a foe to ice. Tabaxi like to tell tall tales and catch rats and mice. The unicorn is mystical, with a magic horn that can heal. And then there are white dragons, which will lie and cheat and steal. All these monsters you can meet when playing D&D. So have fun on your adventures and save a spot for me. Spot. And there they go running. I like that he's got the monster manual. The dad does right there. It's good stuff. I like this book a lot. The production value is fantastic. Like I said, it's a great... Yeah, I'm right. Rain Midnight, the cutest thing ever is that bestiary. I actually had read that a few times, kind of skimming it. I didn't realize that each of the bestiary lines also rhyme. So kudos to you, Mr. Van Norman, for making that worthwhile read for everyone. So those are available in bookstores now. You can get them anywhere. They're fantastic, and I think you should be. They should be on the list for everybody this holiday season as they get ready to bequeath things that people don't need onto each other. Let's get to something they do need, which are some happy, positive, fun children's books. So make it so, people. All right. The last thing I wanted to highlight as far as news articles go is this awesome thing, which I'm going to bring up a headline for because I think it's great. Ish. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but it's great. It's great-ish. So, Quartz. How many people know about Quartz? It's not a very well-known publication or online publication in the geek world, but that's because it's a business it's more focused on business as well as those around the corner. So here is a nice little overview of Dungeons and Dragons. This was published back in November 16th, but this has got a timeline of all the things happening in Dungeons and Dragons, which is mostly accurate. Obviously, if you want to check out even more, you want to go to the what was I going to say? The Art and Arcana book, the visual history book written by Kyle Newman and his friends there. That's where you get the real history. But I like this because it's an overview for people who may not know. The intended audience is this is not our fans, right? This is for people who don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is all about. But what I like about it as a fan is thinking about it the way non-fans would, right? So it explains it in a very concise way, as well as does that thing of throwing out lots of images and graphs and numbers and stats that might excite people, into it. Oh, and I love that Robert Wardaw is mentioned in this as well. We interviewed Robert recently, last month, on Dragon Talk. He has been running his Dungeons & Dragons campaign continuously for 35 years. I said 36 when we talked to him, but that's a lot. It's in there. It is in there. Cool. So check this out. This might be a good landing place for people who, friends of yours who are like, hey, what's that D&D thing? Give me the top level, what this is all about. Or it's got tons of factoids in here that you can use more from, I wouldn't say necessarily from the business side of things, but definitely with a more business minded idea of why Dungeons & Dragons is super exciting right now. And I like this graph, too, of mentions of Dungeons & Dragons in Hasbro's public filings. That's pretty fascinating. Also, the fact that it has 2019 in here when that hasn't occurred yet, right? Or I don't know. Maybe I'm not a business person. Do they do public filings for 2019 ahead of time like they do for cars, like the 2019 model? But but that's pretty funny. It reminds me actually of a great slide that my friend and boss Nathan Stewart does when talking about D&D, where it starts off, oh, this is just a normal graft, and then it's just an up arrow at the end that says D&D is killing it, and that's really all you need to know at the end of it. That's what this kind of does here at the end. It just keeps going up. It is blowing the roof off most charts. All right, how's everybody doing? I'm looking at the chat here. How many generations is a 35-year-old campaign? Well, I don't think we ever actually asked Mr. Orda that how many generations, but that is what occurs, is that if a player character dies, they continue on. I think he has said 400 years in-world time has passed since the start of the campaign, so that it has been several generations that have gone on. Oh yes, Elwarius, you're psyched for PAX Unplugged. There is a lot going on at PAX Unplugged this weekend for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have a handy graphic for you right now, but we will be doing graphics very soon on that front. And let me talk to you about some of the amazingness that's happening very soon, because there's a lot, like I said. There is a lot. I'm so excited you're going to be there, but I am sad I am not going to be there, Elwarius. I'd love to see you there face to face. So PAX Unplugged is this weekend, starts November 30th. It is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And it starts off on Friday with story time with Mr. Jeremy Crawford, managing editor and lead rules developer for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. He wrote most of the 5th edition that you see and hear and play with. His Twitter feed is amazing as far as real-time discussion of rules and rules justifications. I also just love that he is like, these are just guidelines and you can actually do whatever you want at the table. All those are fun things. Jeremy's got a fascinating story, a history. He's done so many jobs leading up to this, and it's really I can't wait for the world to learn more about this amazing game designer and man. 10:30 a.m. on Friday, November 30th. Check it out. It will be amazeballs. Is that a word? Can I say that? And then also at that same, no, I'm sorry, right after that, there is a great panel called Play Well with Others, Conflict Resolution at the game table. I think 4 of the people on this panel have been guests on Dragon Talk at some point. So that's Megan Connell, Adam Davis, Satine Phoenix, and Dr. B. Raf Bokomatsu. And then 2 other folks who I'm very excited to meet at one point, Jack Birkenstock and Grant Ellis. Grant Ellis is a very good dungeon writer as well as DM. So that panel is awesome. Check that out if you can. Art and Arcana, the visual history of Dungeons & Dragons. Kyle Newman, John Peterson, and Michael Whitwer. 3 of the 4 authors of that book will be on site talking about that book. That's at 1 p.m. In the Crab God Theater. I'm not sure which ones of these are streamed, but I think a lot of them will be available for streaming. But hopefully you guys can check it out if you haven't already. After that, at 1:30 on Friday, No Having Racism in Your Campaign Settings or Table. Tanya DePass from Rivals of Waterdeep, Adam Coble from Roll20 Presents, B. Dave Walters, formerly of Inkwell Society, and he's got some other fun stuff coming up soon. He was in the Off the Table sessions at the Stream of Many Eyes. Carlos Luna, Serena Marie, and Poisel, who was in B. Dave's game. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was amazing. It's a hard to pronounce name, so I apologize. Those are all awesome guests and panelists, and you should attend that too, because it's very important to not bring any real world racism into your game. And it's sometimes things happen inadvertently, and these folks will be able to tell you exactly some pitfalls that you might be able to avoid. Something that I've been thinking about a lot in how I run games and how I pursue them. So worthwhile, and you should get into it if you haven't already. 4 p.m. on Friday, creating dynamic RPG characters for theme and story. That is with Mr. Adam Bradford from Curse, who does the D&D Beyond. Satine Phoenix, amazing person. Rudy Rutenberg, amazing person number 2, are on that panel. And then at 4:30 on Friday, I'm going to go through all of these. I don't even know if they're streaming or not, but it's just amazing that so many of our community are talking about what makes D&D and tabletop amazing at PAX Unplugged, which makes sense. It's the Unplugged. It totally makes sense. The next one is Inclusivity in Gaming, ASD at your FLGS. That's with the Adams, Adam Davis and Adam Johns. We have had them on before from Games to Grow, and then as well as a lot of new folks I don't know. So James Kirk, Jared Ebert, Jack Birkenstock, and Jennifer Wirtz. And then Dice Camera Action Live will be going on at the main theater Friday, November 30th at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Chris Perkins won't be there. It won't be dungeon mastered by him, but Satine Phoenix is taking the mantle, and she'll be running through with the Waffle Crew. So with Anna, Jared, Holly, and Nathan, all of them there. A session similar to what Mark Humes did, and do a much more talky session about their characters, their motivation, background, more of a campfire episode. So tune in and find out about what's happening with your Waffle Crew there without Chris there to make them all cry. Isn't that great? Yeah, Satine will be, ostensibly the DM. She'll be running the thing, but there won't be any, to my knowledge, there won't be any plot that will be moved forward. It'll be a lot more of a character stuff. So that's pretty cool. On Saturday, December 1st, there is a whole bunch of fun stuff going on here. So Gaming at School, making RPGs as easy as ABC. These are awesome people on here. So Sarah Roman is working on making educators, creating a community of educators who are using Dungeons and Dragons in their classrooms. That's at teachingwithdnd.com. I've been having tons of conversations with her. She is amazing. Lauren Belanco, who is the owner and operator of the 20-sided store in Brooklyn, one of my old haunts in Williamsburg. It opened, I think, the year I moved away from that area, so I was always been sad that I wasn't able to be a longtime customer there. But she's an amazing person, and then filling that out, Johnny Young, James Mendez Hodes, or Hodes, and Finlay Logan will be talking about how to do that. Latinx in Tabletop, our seat at the table, that are a whole bunch of amazing folks, including Elwarius, who is here in the chat right now. We'll be at that panel, moderated by Carlos Luna. Serena Marie will be there, and then 2 folks, Jet Set and David Gonzalez. That's on Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Crab God Theater. Next up is at 1:30 p.m. D&D Beyond presents Roleplay Roulette. And that is going to be tons of fun. Kate Welch, Jeremy Crawford, Satine Phoenix, Adam Bradford, Todd Kenrick, and Amy Falcone, all amazing role players in their own right. And they will play completely random characters. They will press the D&D Beyond's random character and improvise their way through a classic D&D adventure using the random characters. I did that for a campaign that I'm playing in with Mike Merles here in the office. I got a forest gnome paladin with a intelligence of 4, but with a high wisdom. So she's been really fun to play. She basically is kind of like a berserker, but in a paladin type way, and I've enjoyed it a lot. So having an entire party of random characters, whoo boy, that is going to be fun. Hand Her a Sword is the next panel that I want to talk about. That's Saturday, December 1st at 2:30 p.m. in the Crab God Theater. Instilling Confidence in Girls with RPGs. Ethan Schoonover is going to be there. Schoonover, he is a middle school teacher here in the Seattle area. I believe it's in Bellevue. And he will be there with Dr. Megan Connell, Kate Welch, Satine, and BJ Hensley, talking about how to use RPGs to, just like the title says, instill confidence in young women. And as a father of young women, I am going to be paying attention to this panel extremely a lot. Following that is also something with Elwarius. I want to share this actually with Lauren right now if I can. So maybe you can actually do some of these links. I probably should have done that ahead of time, huh, Lauren? I probably should have. Hey, Crystal Fire, glad you're tumbling in here. We are just talking about all of the fun stuff that's going on with D&D at PAX Unplugged. There is a lot, so we're going through it all. So that's D&D Espanol. They will actually be playing Dungeons & Dragons in Spanish, I believe. Elwarius, yes, there you go. Woohoo! There you go. There's the article. It actually went live. It's all on there. You got it. I'm going to go through and talk about it even more. Ask the Waffle Crew Anything is following up at 4 p.m. That is an AMA, essentially, with the 4 folks who will be playing Dungeons & Dragons in about 17 minutes here on this very channel for the next episode of Dice Camera Action, so stay tuned and listen to that. That's at 4 p.m. From the Mothman Theater. And then Executive Women in Tabletop. This is a really cool panel. Elaine Chase from Magic will be there leading the charge here with a bunch of amazing women who are playing at the highest levels of tabletop companies. So Heather O'Neill, Kat Tobin, Julie Ahern, Misha Buschiager, and Melissa Lewis Gentry are all on that panel. Speaking of empowering women and making them confident, I think that panel would be fantastic for any aspiring game designer or executive in tabletop who wants to take up their mantle, because they are awesome folks, all of them. And then on Saturday, December 1st at 7:30 p.m. at the Leviathan Theater, Historical and Visual Transgender Representation in RPGs. This is an amazing panel. Akika, she's here in the panel, in the chat. Hello. You're going to be on this panel with Grant Ellis, Nomedic, Allison Dillon Robinson, Shauna Nakasone, and Curtis Beck. So that's going to be fantastic. I love the idea of more representation of transgender people, across the board. But in RPGs, it's very exciting. A lot of the conversation around that when we released Mordekainen's Tome of Foes was fascinating. That was the one where we talked about the elves and where they came from. Yeah, I think so. Sorry, there's been a lot of D&D releases, and I for a moment doubted my knowledge of what book that was in. But I love that they're pushing this conversation forward, so go attend that if you can. And then Saturday, December 1st at 8:30 p.m. From the main theater, Acquisitions Incorporated live. There will be blood. No, I think there will be lots of fun. There is a new Dungeon Master who will be taking over that. And I don't know if it's really kind of disseminated out there everywhere, so I might as well say it now. Jeremy Crawford will be Dungeon Mastering that new episode or performance of Acquisitions Incorporated live. I can't wait to see it. He's been learning everything about these characters. He's watched all of the previous episodes, and he's very excited to take that forward. And I can't wait for the world to see Jeremy Crawford's dungeon mastering style. It is not what you think from what you know about Jeremy Crawford. It's very freeform, very improvisational, and he brings to life characters in a way that just tickles my funny bone and is wonderful. So check it out if you can. Acquisitions Incorporated, Dungeon Mastered by Jeremy Crawford and not Mr. Chris Perkins. Very exciting. So that wraps up Saturday. Then we go to Sunday, and luckily there's less panels here, so there's less for me to go through. The Tale of the Years, the evolution of lore in D&D, is at 10 a.m. From the Crab God Theater. Kika Delarose again will be there. Woohoo! Talking about how lore has evolved with Grant Ellis, Jim Davis, Mitya Zimmer, and Jonathan Pruitt. Lots of amazing folks in that panel, and I can't wait to hear what they talk about. On Sunday, Elwarius will be playing Dungeons and Dragons in Espanol again from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Yes, that's another 4-hour session you're doing, Elwarius. Hats off to you for being able to do that. Yes, that's what I thought too. That Jim Davis was from of the Lasagna Cat. Yes, I don't think that is the same Jim Davis, but you never know. Maybe it is. I always thought Garfield was more of a dungeon master. Anywho. More than set dressing, handling marginalization in games is the next panel. It's at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. Tanya DePass, Adam Coble, Andrew Gillis, Ali Bustion, and Mikey Z talk more about how to bring forward marginalized groups as being the stars of your campaign rather than just in the background. So very interesting. Always have more to say on that topic, and I'm excited that they are pushing it forward. Next up, Sunday, December 2nd at 11 a.m. is Acquisitions Incorporated, the C Team. Those amazing folks will be continuing with a 2.5-hour session there. That's with Dungeon Master Jerry Holkins, of course, Kate Welch, Ryan Hartman, Chris Straub, and Amy Falcone, all amazing people. I was just talking to Ryan a little while ago about some other fun stuff that's getting cooked up for Dungeons & Dragons and Penny Arcade, so can't wait to tell you more about that. And then finally, at 3 p.m. on Sunday, Jeremy Crawford is doing a panel he has done many times before at places like Gen Con or Origins. Queer as a Three-Sided Die. Jeremy Crawford talks with Steve Kenson, Jeff Sorensen, and Heather Wilson about what it is like to be in the RPG industry as a queer person. And it talks all about their background and their history and everything like that. So I launched into this not knowing I was going to tell you about every single panel, but the breadth of this is quite amazing. I can't believe that there is so many different angles and ways to talk about the role-playing genre and where D&D is going in the future. I'm excited about how many of them deal with marginalized groups or people that see holes in how Dungeons and Dragons has been used in the past, and that they are talking about it and how it can bring this amazing hobby of storytelling and bringing groups together face to face for the most part, talking to each other, communicating, solving problems, how we can bring that to more groups out there, because I think it ends up being a net good for humanity. I mean, I don't want to get too teary-eyed before I go in to talk about ways to roll dice to kill people, but there is something to that the exact dynamic of this game is people who come from different backgrounds, who have different skills, who have very different experiences. They come together, they forge a story together, and I'm talking about the characters, but also the players. They forge the story together, and it's one of heroism. It's one of saving the world. Usually, it's one of overall good. Kudos to Penny Arcade and PAX for putting together a PAX Unplugged programming schedule that highlights all of these amazing people in the community. Like I said, many of you are in the chat here right now, so I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but you're all amazing, and I can't wait to get the after-action reports of what happens at all of these panels, watch as many of them as I can on the Penny Arcade channels on Twitch, and then hopefully learn something from all that's being talked about, because the conversation is awesome. All right, who wants to learn about some projects? We got 8.5 minutes before we start Dice Camera Action episode 117, I believe, right? Is that right? 117, everybody? Do I got that right? 119. I am way behind. Oh my gosh, 119 is happening today? What? That's crazy. These four are going to be doing amazing things very soon. One thing I wanted to note, we'll be doing Dice Camera Action this week. We'll be doing it next week. But on the 11th, there will be no Dice Camera Action, and then the following week, the 18th, they will be back on, and then taking a break for the rest of the year back in January. So only 2 episodes of Dice Camera Action, Dungeon Mastered by Chris, coming in the next month or so, or in December. So I only have a couple minutes, so I want to get to all the fun stuff that was announced here. I mean, basically everything that we've been talking about is available now. There is Waterdeep Dragon Heist dice. These are super cool. I showed them off on previous D&D Newses if you want more of a in-depth look at what's in that package there. There's the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica dice. It comes in this nice tin, and each one of the dice are arrayed there, including a one big 10-sided guild die that has different guild symbols for the guilds that rule Ravnica. Very good stuff. I already talked about the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of D&D, but this is out there. Dungeon of the Mad Mage Maps and Miscellany. It's a great companion to the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Each one of the maps are presented on individual sheets. These are wet erase and dry erase, so you can mark on these and pull them out for easy viewing while you have the adventure book open whenever you need them. So the other miscellany in here is some rumors cards, as well as some NPCs that you can use. Sorry, one sec. I'm back. All right, so I want to make sure and show these off again because these are available in stores everywhere. They are, what is this, you might ask? Well, it is a slipcase book of the Dungeons & Dragons core rulebook set. So all 3 of the core rulebooks for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition are in there, including the Dungeon Master screen reincarnated there. And all of them have this amazing shimmering foiling effect, right? You can't really, I mean, you can't super tell. It doesn't like kind of pop the way it does when you have it in your hands, but it is a foil treatment that is something to behold for sure. All right, and then of course we've got Dungeon Master's Guide there with the shimmering shining of a Sararak coming at you. Blinded! Are you blinded, Ravnica 666 Mark of the Beast? I think the Player's Handbook looks the coolest. It's got that kind of red foiling effect here. They really look great. Still got that new book smell. I think someone asked about the World Builders fundraiser. Yeah, go ahead and plug it here in there. I don't have the details in front of me right now, but if you want to shoot that in here, I'll definitely talk about it. I only have about 5 minutes, so drop it in and I'll make it happen because I had forgotten to add this to our thing. A couple more updates. There's an Unearthed Arcana available now. It's called Of Ships in the Sea. There's a whole bunch of stat blocks, travel at sea, mutinies, hazards, ships in combat. If you ever wanted to run a seafaring campaign, check those out, see if they're any interest to you. There was an Adobe Monster Contest to summon the terror of Undermountain. It was open for a while for a chance to win $5,000, a trip to here at WotC, and for your work to be featured as an official D&D monster. Those submissions are now closed, and we are looking at all of them now, and we'll be announcing the winner in December. So look for that here. Podcast of Ravnica was an amazing promotion. It's on our Dungeon Delve feed. If you like podcasts, go search for Dungeon Delve. There are 10 episodes, each focusing on a different guild from a Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and 10 groups, or well, rather 9 groups that tackled all of these. They were fantastic, interesting live play Dungeons & Dragons players, and I really suggest you check them out as well if you're interested in finding out about these individual guilds. You might learn something from that as well. For Extra Life 2018, we have raised more than $200,000 for the Children's Miracle Network, and more specifically the Seattle Children's Hospital. Thank you to everyone who contributed to us for Clerical Error, not to mention across the board for all of it. There is still stuff available in our Custom Ink fundraising page You can buy that stuff there now. It still goes to our total. I can't believe the amount that we've raised this year. It blew all of our other years out of the water, and we'll be continuing to raise that bar next year and raise more and more. But it is very gratifying to have the D&D community come together and raise as much money as it can for kids. You can also purchase the Lost Laboratory of Qualish. That adventure is now available on D&D Beyond, and all the proceeds to that go towards our Extra Life fundraising totals for this year as well. So again, I love that we've raised as much. There's still more that we can raise in December. It's not over yet. It never is. People always need more funds to be able to help kids in need. So check that out if you can. There's a new issue of Dragon Plus coming out next week. Just want to make sure everyone was aware of that. And then one more exciting thing for our friends at Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. They announced today that game has been on Steam for a while. It is coming to PS4 and Xbox One next month. Crazy, right? Next month. I can't believe it. I'm going to be playing it like crazy. It takes a lot of our characters from Dungeons & Dragons lore, puts them in an idle, well, I guess it was like a clicker game, but on the console, it's more of a button pusher game. Folks you might recognize from Dice Camera Action are in there, such as Evelyn, Strix, and Diath, Polton, crossing our fingers. But there's also tons of, Satine Phoenix's character from Sirens of the Realms is in there. Many of the characters from Force Grey. So go check it out. It's really amazing to see these characters brought to life in a video game, and I love it. So it's going to do a whole new audience on Xbox One and PS4, and you should check it out there if you haven't already checked it out on Steam. All right, so Beetle and Grimm's Platinum Edition of Waterdeep Dragon Heist is coming out soon. They will be fulfilling starting on next week, I believe. I think December 8th. And then I wanted to leave you guys with this peek of what's going to come. That's the Dungeon Master, made to scale by Iron Studios. Those are available for pre-order right now, and they are fantastic. There's going to be Bobby the Barbarian and Uni, Diana the Acrobat, the Dungeon Master, Eric the Cavalier, Hank the Ranger, Presto the Magician, Sheila the Thief. Go check those out while you can and pre-order them if you're interested. They look pretty amazing. I haven't seen them in the flesh yet, but these images so far look great. All right, that's it. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for watching D&D News. I'm at Greg Tito on Twitter. You can find out everything about Dungeons & Dragons at wizards_DND. And I am going to get out of here so you can watch Dice Camera Action episode 119. Have fun, everybody.